Hey! Hello, how are you? Welcome to I also call this my cocoon. It's my car! It's, I love this place. It's all decorated the way I like. This part here, this is the steering wheel. This is some business cards and some loyalty cards. Just right where I need them. This is called the Wub machine. I've just called it that then. It's called the Wub machine. It generates all the wub. And makes lots of noise. And I quite like the noises that it makes. Today, I want to talk about God's purpose for you. So, first of all, let's preface this with me. I don't know everything. I don't know what's going on. I'm just trying to make sense of this crazy world that I'm living in. And I don't always get it right, you know? But I've been observing some stuff, and this is my conclusions. Okay? First of all, if God is perfect, and God creates stuff, then everything He creates is perfect. God created you, therefore, goes without saying, you'd be perfect too, right? And that's all well and good to say, and it makes sense logically, right? But what does it mean? But why don't we feel that way? You know, we don't always feel perfect. In fact, most people never feel perfect. We feel lacking, like we're not enough. That's the primary thing. Like we could have done more, we could be more. That we're too lazy, that they're this, that we're that, right? So, God's made us perfect. We are perfect, just the way we are. The problem is that we're the way that we're brought up, the world that we live in, and all this sort of stuff it's trying to shape us into a generic creature. This is not God's will. God wants us to be us, our unique selves, and to thrive being ourselves, and to thrive being unique, to be ourselves, to be powerful in what we are capable of, not what we're not capable of. Why would God want us to be good at something that we're not good at? Like, why would He want us to make that our primary goals in life? It doesn't make any logical sense, right? So, but the world wants that. The world is then programming us to think that we need to be this and we need to be that, and we need, you can't make a good living off doing something that you love. You've got to have a 9-to-5 that traps you down and makes you miserable. You've got to be in relationships that, they're not perfect, but just accept them for the way they are, rather than maybe you can work at the relationships and change them so that they're the best thing for both of you, right? Because if one person's unhappy in a relationship, you're both unhappy in the long term, right? So, what does that mean then? So that's why we feel inadequate. For example, and some of this stuff is from the dark world, that full of sin and corruption, and the media and sex sells and all this sort of stuff, right? And that's legitimate, right? That's not made up. But some of it comes from some of our most well-intentioned people in our lives, For example, I know people who I love dearly and mean a lot to me. Even my own mum, right? Telling me that I should choose this career and that career and other, because they're all really safe careers. My mum, her primary driver for me, the primary thing that she wants for me is safety, then happiness, then success. like based on what I've observed. Maybe happiness and safety are somewhere on, maybe on, almost on the same plane, but based on, you know, how she treats me and the way she acts and all that sort of stuff. She's always tried to align me with being safe, you know. For example, my career. I made a career jump from a company they poached me. They offered me money while I was, offered me a position while I was working for another company. The company that I was working for at the time had maybe 15, 20 employees or something, all up, and it was a reasonable sized company. And then I was going to work for this guy, and he's a single. Him and his wife are the only ones operating, right? At the time, there was no other employees. There was 2 employees at the moment, and it was going to become 3. He promised me that he would look after me better, pay me better, give me a nice car, and let me put whatever sound system I want in my car. And he delivered. It turns out he delivered quite well on that, you know, but we didn't know that at the time. It's just his word. And my mum, wanting to keep me safe, was like, no, that's not a safe option. That's not something you should be doing, because what if he runs out of work? What if he can't keep you? What if he finds out that he can't afford to keep you? What if this happens? What if that happens? Blah, blah, blah. You know? Because she's worried about me. She loves me. She's concerned about me and my well-being. But the last job was making me miserable. Like, things were getting pretty dark because of the stress of that and a few other things that were stressing me out in my life at that time. And work was definitely a major part of that. So when this guy, I felt really comfortable and awesome around him. My mum's never met him. Even my dad was like, be careful, you know, you don't know how it's going to turn out and stuff. And I'm like, well, I've got a pretty good judge of character. I've got a pretty good intuition. And I feel like this is where I should be. So as an example, like, not all of these, not all the things that pull you off God's plan for you, God's path, God's destination for you, not all of them are evil, manipulative, intended people. Sometimes it's just people who love you and just don't understand. And you just got to accept that for what it is, you know. It's fine. Mum's allowed to want to keep me safe. I love her for that. But I know better in some situations. In some situations, she knows better. So God gave me this brain to think, not to just blindly follow everyone else's advice, you know. It's like someone, I'll get into that a bit more, but someone giving you a gift that you don't appreciate and utilize, you know, that's showing that you don't appreciate it, you know. Someone gives you a gift and you're just like, cheers, thanks, I'm going to put this on the shelf. Then you go back a year later and it's still in the box, on the shelf, you know. You'd be like, I feel kind of dumb giving them that gift that they never used, you know what I mean? Same with God. God wants you to utilize yourself. God wants you to do stuff and all that, you know. He wants you to utilize the gifts that he's given you. So, moving on from there. So from that, like, but how do you know? Well, this is self-discovery. This is what self-discovery is all about learning who you are as a person, about developing yourself as a human being, getting in touch with your soul and who you are and what you're good at and what you're not good at, and knowing and also learning what should you be working on, what should you be trying to develop more, what don't you need to develop, you know, really learning who you are as a person, because this is the big twist, right? God created you, right? He created you with all these little things. See, and you, by understanding these qualities of who you are as a person, you will then have a deeper understanding for God. You'll get a closer connection to God. The same way that gift, you know. It's like if you were to cook your friend, say you've been working on this meal and you've been like playing with recipes and you've been designing your own recipe for this particular meal, whatever it may be, right? and you've been playing with the spices and the ingredients and the way you cook it, like the methodology that you use to cook the food and all that sort of stuff, right? And you get this meal and you're like, this meal is the best meal that I've ever, not only ever made, but this is the best meal that I've ever designed and created, right? And then you share that with someone, right? Imagine these two scenarios. One person, you share the meal and they go, wow, thank you so much, this is delicious. And then that's it, right? You'd be like, oh, awesome, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, you know? But if someone said, wow, this food is actually really delicious, is that, I think I can taste apple in that, or some sort of fruit. Did you put some sort of fruit into this meal? Because it's a savory meal, but that sweetness that it adds is just really nice. I love how it complements everything, and the way you've cooked this bit, it's got that crunch, but then that softness on the inside, and so on and so forth. What's happening there is they get it. They understand what you've done. They understand how much thought and how much effort and everything you've put in to create this meal. They're not just saying, it's nice, I'm glad you gave it to me. They actually fully understand it, and God is the same, you know. God has created you. God has created this world around you. God has given you these gifts on purpose, so hopefully you can stay focused on God's path so that you can get the self-discovery down pat, so you know who you are, so that God can go, yes, they get it. They understand. I'm so proud of my creation understanding it all, right? It goes off into other directions too, like, because here's the thing. The way you really ought to be, this is the ideal situation, right? You're born, and then you're told what you're meant to do in life, right? How you are, you know, if you follow this path, if God came down, was like, if you follow this path and you do all these things just right, you will become everything that you've ever wanted to be, and your life will be so easy. It'll be just smooth sailing. You'll find an amazing partner if that's what you're all about. You know, you'll have a great career, you'll have this, you'll have that, you'll feel fulfilled and inner peace and all this sort of fun stuff, right? All this stuff that we all want, right? But you'd have to sort of know that from the beginning and then just plan your life out from there, right? And the reality is that the correct moment, the best moment for that to be told to you is when you pop out of the womb. And of course, what good is that? You pop out of the womb, God sits you down. Now listen, you're good at this, this, and this. So I want you to just, that's what you're going to do. You're going to be a graphic designer, or you're going to be a chef, or you're going to be in corporate, or whatever it may be, right? But you're a baby, so obviously it goes in one ear and out the other, you know? Even as a toddler, that's a waste of time. Like, logically, it's just not going to work. But then, so what's God's technique? He sprinkles in all these little clues through your life so that you can constantly course correct back to your core direction, God's direction for you, rather than trying to just blindly follow, you know, blindly reach out to try and find where you're supposed to go, try to feel the walls to know where the door is. It gives you all these little clues about who you are through your entire life, so that, you know, you can go off course a little bit, that's fine, but you can just nudge it back on course and you're back towards where you're supposed to be. And based on how you feel about it, you know, if you feel good about, if drawing makes you feel good, as an example, you should keep drawing. You should hone that skill, you know. If you're really good at maths and you actually enjoy doing it, maybe that's a sign from God that you know, you should keep doing it and develop that skill and not let that muscle wither away, right? You need to actually, let's go that way. You know, you can, that's God's plan, man. That's why it's done the way it is, you know? So, you need to raise your awareness of who you are as a person so that you can have that connection with God, and then if you're aware of who you are as a person, you can then have awareness of what God's plan is for you. If you have no awareness of who you are, the only way you can possibly get through life is by following what everybody else says, and no one knows you. Only God knows who you are and what you're about, right? He knows it before you know it. So don't get it twisted, right? Don't think you're better than that, right? Or that certainly don't think that anyone outside of you knows you better than God. Just follow God's. That's what your intuition's about, you know. It's pulling you towards whatever your life goals should be, you know. That's what it's all about. So I think that's everything. I think I've covered everything that I meant to cover. So keep that in mind. Like, have a think about that. Who are you? How can you learn more about yourself? Where are you actually telling yourself fibs about the world? Where are you? That was the other thing I was going to say. So yeah, what are you lying about to yourself? Where are you lying to yourself? Because that is distancing you from God. If the world is a certain way, or you are a certain way, or whatever it may be, but you tell yourself that it's not that way, or maybe the people around you tell you that the world is this way, but it's actually this way, and you're lying about it to yourself, then that's distancing you from God, because God has created reality, and you need to understand reality to understand God. You can't be blinded by what everyone else tells you, or even the lies that you tell yourself to try and make yourself feel good, or to try and make yourself fit in, or whatever it may be. You know, you need to actually understand reality so that you can understand God. The final thing is that the world is a certain way. That God made this world a certain way. God's not dealing you a heavy hand. You just don't understand it, right? So, for example, there are lots of little jokes in the world that a lot of people don't see as jokes. They just see them as the world giving them a heavy hand, you know, which is not the case at all. Like, for example, there's this little joke that happened to me the other day. I wanted to make a cake. Just a cake for me. I felt like some chocolate cake. And I was craving it. I was at work and I was thinking about it all day. And I'm like, when I get home, man, I'm going to make this cake and it's going to be so good. And I get home and I'm like exhausted from work. Which way do you want me to go? That way. I'm exhausted from work, but I get home and all I can think about is I just want to eat this cake. So I get all the ingredients out, I lay them all out on the bench, and then that's when it hit me. I was making this cake from scratch. I've got no flour. No, I wasn't making a cake mix, I was making it from scratch. And I had no flippin' flour. And I was pretty annoyed because I was tired, you know, I was exhausted, so my brain was a bit fuzzy and a bit emotional and stupid. So I was like, if I want this cake, now I have to go to the shops. I have to get into my car, drive to the shops, look for the flour, buy the flour, spend money, come home, and then I can make the cake. But then I sort of stopped for a second and realized how silly I sound and how funny it is that I would even think like that. For example, I was thinking about how I have to get into my car. I love my car. My car is amazing to me. I think it's one of the greatest. Like, when I get into my car, it's just, to me, it's just so comfortable. I feel really safe, like, in here. I've got my music. I've got my big wub machine here. I've got all the things that just make me comfortable. It's got climate control. It's got cruise control. I've got my fuzzy seat covers in here, so I'm nice and warm and comfy, you know. All this sort of stuff, right? Like, so I have to endure this beautiful thing that I've created, that I've sort of made my own, right? Woe is me. And then I have to drive 2 minutes down the road to the IGA, woe is me, like, to a place that has every type of food you could just about imagine, almost, you know? That IGA is excellent down the road for me, and they've got everything. And you know what? Like, most people in the world don't have a car. They don't have like a shop down the road. Like, they don't have a limitless supply of food like I do. Like, I can just go to the shops and just buy the food. And a lot of people don't have the money to just simply go, oh, I feel like having a cake, something I don't even need to eat to survive. I'm just going to eat that because I feel like feeling good about eating cake. And I'm going to eat it. I'm going to make this cake and eat it. And just for lols, just for fun, you know? Who's got that in their life, you know? I've also got an excellent job that I really appreciate and I love. So who's got that? That's pretty rare, but I'd have it, and that's awesome. So, and it just makes me giggle at how silly I am. Like, come on, man. Come on. Come on. You're funny. You're funny. So, you know, God wants you to be in on the jokes, right? They're not at your expense. They're just jokes that are funny. They're just a funny thing, you know? Just roll with it. It's cool. It's fine. So, also there's lessons in life that if you're really short-viewed, short-sighted, right, you might just focus on how uncomfortable you feel right now. But in the long term, some things that are really uncomfortable in the short term are actually really, like, mega beneficial for you in the long term. Like, they're really powerful. But you can't see how awesome it is right now. But if you can trust in God, trust that God has your back, trust that as long as you care about yourself, because God created you, and, you know, you're a gift. You're almost like a gift to yourself. You're a gift to the world. You're a gift to your family. You're a gift to your friends, and you're also a gift to yourself. I see myself as a gift to myself, that I am so honored to survive, to be alive, you know, that I take care of myself. In the same way, if your parents gave you a car and you looked after it, your parents would be like, I'm so proud of my child for looking after this expensive, valuable thing, you know? The same with you, like, you should be taking care of yourself. And so, if you can also have that with the long view, with the view of the future, like, see how things could pan out, that as long as I take care of myself and have enough boundaries and respect for myself not to be walked all over, but also enough love to care about others and help them, even those people that treat me badly, they don't mean to be like that. They're just sort of been, their environment has sort of made them that way. You know, if if you can see all that, then your life's going to be so much more pleasant, so much more rewarding, and all this sort of stuff, you know, like, because you get it, you understand the world, you understand reality, which is the thing that God created, as I explained before, for you. Wants you to see it for what it is, not for how everyone else says it is. So, you know, honestly, I think that's what would make, in my experience of the world, you know, if I was God, I would be proud of my people who do these things, who understand the world, who respect themselves, you know, who trusts in me, blah, 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 blah. So, but also is willing to take the initiative to do what's best for them, to be able to see the patterns of your life, and that, which is seeing reality, and then to be cool with that, you know, and work with it rather than against it. Like, working against who I am in my core is like choosing careers that are not a good fit for me just because, say, my parents asked me to do it. Like, my parents are pressuring me to do it, you know. But at the same time, I also need to actively look for them. I have to actively work on myself as a person to discover who I am, and to cultivate greatness within myself. So anyway, that's a long enough video. I hope I've covered everything. I'd love to hear whatever your thoughts are on the topic, on this particular topic, about what you think God's plan is, or at least if you've got a little bit of a gut feeling, if your soul's kind of speaking to you and telling you, what do you think? What are you drawn to? Whatever. And how can you use that to be the best version of you? So, yeah. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Raise that awareness. Raise it. Raise it.